My name is Rachel. I'm 33 years old. The night my own family kicked me and my 7-year-old son out of Christmas dinner was the moment I finally understood that I had been tolerating behavior my entire life that was never normal. It didn't happen during an argument. There was no shouting or scene. That's what still messes with me. We were sitting at my parents' dining table, the same one I grew up eating at, with the fake tree glowing in the corner and soft Christmas music playing like everything was fine. My son Noah was sitting next to me, legs swinging because they don't reach the floor yet, wearing a paper Santa hat my aunt made him and waiting patiently for dessert. He was happy. He felt safe. That matters later. My older sister Lauren cleared her throat and smiled at me the way she does when she thinks she's being reasonable. She said, calmly, that she thought it was time for me to leave. I honestly laughed for a second because my brain refused to process what she said. I looked at my mom, expecting her to shut it down and tell Lauren she was out of line. Instead, my mom folded her napkin, placed it neatly on the table, and said she agreed and that the night would be better without me there. The words landed harder than I expected. My dad didn't say anything. He didn't even look up. He kept eating like nothing unusual was happening. The room went quiet in that way where everyone hears what was said but pretends they didn't. Fork stopped mid-air. Someone coughed. A cousin stared at her phone. And Noah squeezed my hand. He didn't cry or ask questions. He just held on tighter, because kids always sense when something is wrong, even if they don't understand it. I could have argued. I could have asked why. I could have done what I'd done my whole life and tried to fix it. Instead, I stood up, slowly and calmly, grabbed Noah's jacket, and said okay. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult anyone. I didn't need to. Lauren had a small smile on her face as she'd finally said what everyone else was thinking. As we walked toward the door, I could hear whispering behind us, that low hum of judgment I'd grown up with. Outside, it was cold, the kind that burns your lungs. As I buckled Noah into his car seat, he looked up at me and asked if he had done something wrong. That question almost broke me. I told him no, because it wasn't his fault and never had been. I told him we were going to get hot chocolate, watch movies, and still have a good night. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped my keys before I could start the car. As I drove away, my mom's words kept replaying in my head. Better without you. Like I had been a problem my entire life, and they had finally admitted it out loud. What none of them knew at that table was that this wasn't where things started. That dinner was just the moment it became obvious. The real beginning was 18 months earlier. It was a Tuesday afternoon at 4:12 p.m. I was sitting in my car outside Noah's elementary school when my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. When I answered, a woman told me she was calling from St. Vincent Medical Center. She said my husband Evan had been in an accident and that I needed to come immediately. Everything after that felt unreal. I don't remember driving to the hospital. I don't remember who picked Noah up. I remember standing in a white hallway while a doctor told me they had done everything they could. Evan was gone. 10 years together ended in one sentence. At the funeral, my family showed up dressed in black, saying all the right things and hugging me in front of other people. But what stuck with me was stepping into the hallway to breathe and hearing Lauren tell my mom that she didn't think I would handle things well on my own and that Noah needed stability. I waited for my mom to defend me. She didn't. She said they would see how I did. At the time I told myself grief makes you paranoid. I told myself family wouldn't think like that. Sitting in the car after Christmas dinner, watching my parents' house disappear in the rearview mirror while Noah slept in the back seat, I finally understood the truth. They weren't worried about me. They were watching me. Waiting to see how much I would break without Evan. And the second they decided I wasn't handling things the way they wanted, they were ready to push me out. After Evan died, people kept telling me how strong I was, which is funny because what they really meant was that I wasn't inconvenient yet. I went back to work 3 weeks later, not because I was healed, but because sitting still made my head loud. Same accounting firm, same desk, same routine, and I learned quickly that routine is a lifeline when everything else feels unstable. My family didn't like that. Strength that doesn't ask for permission makes controlling people nervous. My mom started calling every couple of days just to check in, which mostly meant asking how tired I was, how stressed I felt, and whether Noah was acting out. Lauren suddenly became very interested in my parenting choices. She asked about Noah's diet, his bedtime, his grades, the amount of screen time he got, all framed like concern but delivered like a checklist. My dad liked to drop comments about how hard it is to raise a kid alone and how families are supposed to step in when someone is overwhelmed. Nobody ever said I was doing a bad job. They didn't need to. The implication was always there, sitting between us like a bad smell. Then the offer started. My mom suggested Noah stay with them during the week so I could focus on myself. Lauren floated the idea of private school and mentioned she knew people who could help with admissions. My dad asked if I'd considered taking a break from work because money isn't everything. Every conversation felt like pressure disguised as help. What I didn't tell them was that Evan and I had talked about this exact scenario during one of those late-night conversations you have when the house is quiet and the world feels fragile. He had grown up watching relatives fight over money and control after his parents split, and he made me promise that if anything ever happened to him, I would protect Noah from that kind of chaos no matter what. So when the life insurance payout finally came through, just over $2 million, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't celebrate. I didn't change my lifestyle. I called a lawyer. Then a financial advisor. Then another lawyer. We set up a trust. We documented guardianship preferences. We locked everything down properly, the kind of boring legal work that saves your life later. Noah's future was protected in a way my family didn't understand, and that was intentional. Money changes people even when they pretend it doesn't. Somehow they sensed it. Lauren started texting more. My mom insisted on weekly dinners. My dad suddenly cared about my long-term plans. I played along. I showed up. I smiled. I let them think things were normal, because I was starting to understand something important. People who think they're in control get sloppy. Lauren started making comments in front of Noah about how fun it would be if he lived closer to her. My mom started ignoring his food allergies, then brushing it off as a mistake. My dad casually mentioned a lawyer friend who handled family matters and said it might be good to know our options. That was the moment I stopped doubting myself. This wasn't support. This was positioning. They weren't trying to help me survive. They were preparing to step in and replace me. The confirmation came during a lunch Lauren invited me to, just the two of us, which had never happened before. She ordered wine even though it was the middle of the day and leaned across the table like she was about to share a secret. She said she worried Noah deserved more stability and that grief can cloud judgment. She said it slowly, like she was testing how I'd react. I nodded and listened, because I wanted her to keep talking. That's when she slipped and said that sometimes courts agree that kids need consistency over sentiment. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. I went home that day and wrote everything down. Dates. Phrases. Tone. I saved texts and emails. I stopped venting to friends and started documenting instead. Because when people plan to take something from you, they leave evidence. They just don't think you're paying attention. By the time Christmas came around, I already knew my family wasn't worried about me failing. They were waiting for an excuse to say I had. By the time Christmas rolled around, I wasn't guessing anymore. I wasn't paranoid. I was aware. There's a difference. Every interaction with my family started to feel like an evaluation instead of a conversation. My mom would watch me instead of listening, like she was mentally checking boxes. Lauren stopped hiding her judgment and started framing it as honesty, which is always how people justify crossing lines. My dad leaned hard into silence, the kind that makes you feel like you're already on trial. I kept showing up anyway. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know how far they were willing to go. The answer turned out to be further than I expected. A week after Christmas, my mom asked if we could all sit down and talk things through. She said it in that careful tone that sounds reasonable to outsiders but always meant bad news in my house. I agreed. We met at their place, same dining room, same table, except this time Noah wasn't there. That should have been my first clue. My dad cleared his throat and said they were worried about me. My mom said she could see how tired I was. Lauren said grief can linger longer than people realize, and sometimes parents don't notice when it's affecting their kids. Then my mom said they had spoken to a family attorney. She didn't ask. She didn't warn me. She said it like it was already decided. They explained that they were considering filing for temporary guardianship until I was back on my feet. Temporary was the word they kept repeating, like it made the idea less violent. They said it wasn't about taking Noah away from me. They said it was about stability, routine, and support. They even said I should be grateful they were willing to step in. I sat there listening to my own family calmly explain how they planned to legally remove my child from my care without ever having a direct conversation with me first. I asked one question. I asked when they planned to tell me before I found out through paperwork. Lauren shrugged and said they thought it would be easier if lawyers handled it. That word hit me harder than anything else. Easier. Like this was a scheduling issue. Like my relationship with my son was an inconvenience. I stood up, thanked them for being honest, and left. I didn't argue. I didn't cry in front of them. I saved that for my car. I cried for exactly 10 minutes. Then I stopped. Not because it didn't hurt, but because something in me shifted from hurt to focus. I went home and called my lawyer. I sent him everything I had. Texts. Emails. Notes. Dates. Exact wording. He went quiet while he read. Then he said they had made a serious mistake by showing intent before filing anything. He said courts don't like coordinated ambushes disguised as concern. That was when I told him about the guardianship documents Evan and I had signed after Noah was born, the ones naming Evan's sister as guardian if anything happened to me. The ones my family had never known about. My lawyer told me not to contact them again and not to react no matter what they did next. That part was hard. Silence always is. My mom called twice the next day. Lauren texted asking if I was okay. My dad left a voicemail about family unity. I didn't respond. And silence did exactly what my lawyer said it would. It made them nervous. Lauren started posting vague things on social media about protecting children and doing what's right even when it's hard. My mom called relatives. My dad suddenly wanted to meet to clear the air. 2 weeks later, I was served papers at work. Temporary guardianship petition. Claims of emotional instability. Allegations that I was financially irresponsible. I read the packet in my car and felt something close to relief. Because once people put their intentions in writing, they can't pretend anymore. They had crossed the line. There was no misunderstanding left to clear up. There was only the court date. Court was set for February, and the weeks leading up to it felt unreal, like I was watching my own life through thick glass. I still woke Noah up for school every morning, still packed his lunch, still kissed his forehead and told him I'd see him after work. But underneath all of it there was this steady hum of pressure that never shut off. My family didn't stop. They just changed tactics. My mom started sending long messages late at night about how much she loved Noah and how she only wanted what was best for him. Lauren went colder, more strategic, forwarding me articles about grief-related parenting decline, like she wasn't talking about her own sister. My dad stopped calling altogether, which honestly hurt more than the yelling ever did. Silence was his weapon. Meanwhile, my lawyer kept building the case brick by brick. He showed me how they'd contradicted themselves in their filings, how they claimed concern for Noah's stability while trying to rip him out of the only routine he'd had since his father died. He explained how judges look for patterns, not emotions, and how my family had handed us a pattern wrapped in a bow. Control. Manipulation. Escalation. The day before court, Lauren posted a photo of Noah from last year with a caption about fighting for children who can't speak for themselves. That one almost broke me. I stared at my phone for a long time, then put it face down and went back to helping Noah with his spelling homework. Court day arrived cold and gray. My family sat on one side of the room, dressed like they were attending church, calm, collected, rehearsed. My mom avoided my eyes. Lauren nodded at me like we were strangers in line at a coffee shop. My dad stared straight ahead. The judge listened. Patient. Methodical. My lawyer spoke first. He laid out the timeline. The insurance payout. The sudden concern. The pressure to sign documents. The attempt to isolate me socially. The guardianship filing without prior discussion. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Facts did the heavy lifting. When Lauren's lawyer spoke, he leaned hard on the grief angle. Emotional overwhelm. Single-parent stress. Temporary support. The judge asked Lauren one question. Why had they not attempted mediation before filing? Lauren hesitated. Just for a second. That pause mattered. She said they believed urgency required action. The judge asked my mom why she told Noah his mother might not always be able to take care of him. My mom's voice shook as she said she didn't remember saying that. The judge raised an eyebrow. My lawyer submitted the text messages where she said exactly that to me afterward. The room shifted. You could feel it. The judge leaned back, hands folded, and said something I will never forget. Concern seeks collaboration. Control seeks authority. Then she denied the petition. Completely. No temporary guardianship. No follow-up review. She warned my family against further legal interference and suggested family counseling only if I consented. I didn't look at them when it was over. I picked up my bag and walked out. In the hallway, Lauren tried to grab my arm. I pulled away and told her not to touch me. My mom started crying, saying they were just scared. I told her fear doesn't justify betrayal. My dad finally spoke. He said I didn't have to humiliate them like that. That word again. Humiliate. As if truth was an attack. I went home, picked Noah up from school, and took him out for burgers and milkshakes like it was any other day. He laughed. He told me about a kid in his class who ate glue. Life kept going. That night my phone exploded. Relatives apologizing. People admitting they'd been told I was unstable. Others saying they'd suspected something was off but didn't want to get involved. I read them all. I replied to none. Because closure doesn't always come from conversation. Sometimes it comes from clarity. My family didn't lose me that day because of court. They lost me because they chose power over love and doubled down when confronted. That wasn't a mistake. That was a decision. And I finally believed them. People think revenge is loud. Courtrooms. Yelling. Public meltdowns. It's not. Real revenge is quiet. It's living well while the people who tried to break you have to sit with what they did. After court, I went no contact. No dramatic announcement. No final speech. I just stopped answering. Blocked numbers. Left group chats. Returned mail unopened. At first, they panicked. Lauren sent messages through cousins saying she just wanted to talk. My mom mailed handwritten letters talking about forgiveness and family unity. My dad tried once, just once, leaving a voicemail that sounded more tired than angry, saying we should stop letting lawyers come between us. I deleted it. Because lawyers didn't come between us. Greed did. Control did. The need to win did. And here's the part they never expected. Without them in my head, my life got lighter. Calmer. I slept better. Noah stopped having nightmares. He laughed more. I laughed more. We built routines that belonged to us. Friday movie nights. Pancakes for dinner when homework ran late. Little things that feel boring to people who chase drama but feel like oxygen when you've been suffocating. Financially, nothing flashy happened. No shopping sprees. No look at me now moments. I paid off debt. Set up Noah's college fund. Invested quietly. The money stopped being this glowing target and just became a tool. Something stable. Something boring. And boring turned out to be exactly what we needed. Months later, I heard things through the grapevine. Lauren's reputation took hits she couldn't spin away. People remembered court records. My parents stopped being invited to certain gatherings. Not because I asked anyone to choose sides, but because people don't like being reminded they were lied to. The narrative collapsed under its own weight. And the wild part is this. If they had just respected my no. If they had treated me like a person instead of a problem to manage, none of this would have happened. They created the very outcome they were trying to avoid. Losing access. Losing trust. Losing control. Sometimes karma doesn't need help. It just needs you to step out of the way. One night, months later, Noah asked me a question while we were brushing our teeth. He asked why we don't see Grandma and Grandpa anymore. I told him the truth, in words an 8-year-old could understand. I told him some people love you, but they don't always know how to love you safely. And when that happens, it's okay to take space. He nodded like that made sense. Because kids understand boundaries better than adults sometimes. Before bed, he hugged me tight and said, "You didn't let them take me." And that was it. That was the moment I knew I'd already won. Not because they lost. But because my child felt safe. If you're listening to this and you're stuck in a family dynamic where love comes with conditions, where help is really control, where boundaries are treated like betrayal, hear me clearly. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. You are not cruel for saying no. And you are not weak for choosing peace over approval. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is disappoint people who benefited from you having no spine. If this story hit close to home, take a second and hit like. It tells the algorithm this kind of story matters. And if you want more real, long-form stories about boundaries, betrayal, and quiet revenge, go ahead and subscribe. You're not alone here. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from, or if you've ever had to walk away from people you were told you had to keep forever. Thanks for sticking with me until the end. And remember this. Peace is not passive. Sometimes it's the strongest move you'll ever make.